part two of whatever I was ranting about. Like cops, like it's a job. It's a job, and it's one of the, from my perspective, it's one of the best jobs you could have. Cause there ain't that many jobs that you go in and you give them 20 to 25 years. You give them 20 to 25 years and you get to retire. Right? So you get in at 21, you retire at 40, 41, 42. Right? Ain't that many jobs you get to do that. Every other job you get, you you only able to retire when you hit like 65, and I think that shit went up to like 69 or something. By that time, you already like shitting on yourself. You can't control your bladder. You probably end up with Alzheimer or something. So it's like you're not gonna be really enjoying that little life you have left, right? But as a cop, you get to retire at 40, bro. What's more beautiful than that? Other career choices that you get to retire at an early age is what, like sports, football. The max, or I mean, the average is like 3 years. You know, you got you a couple millions, then you could chill and just do another job just to keep you busy. And then NBA players, you probably do 10 years, and after that you retire. So you could retire in basketball like 30 years old. Teams are already looking to not get you. But it's like the thing with sports is more than likely you're gonna have some type of injury, and you're gonna be at a early young age, like 30, 40. You're gonna have the body parts of an old man. You know what I mean? Bad hip, all this stuff. Like look at KD, his the screws. Look at Derrick Rose, the knees. You know what I mean? All that injury. Like once you retire, all that shit will be hunting you. So that's the downside. But as a cop, you get to retire and you never had no problem, no altercation. You never been shot. You're good. 40 years old, you still healthy. I mean, hopefully while you was a cop, you wasn't just, eating and not exercising, because a lot of cops, we see a lot of cops who just let themselves go. And, you retire, you good, you healthy, you enjoying life. You get to enjoy life. But a lot of cops, that's not the case. A lot of times, those criminals, they actually kill them. My mother works in a nursing home. Like, this guy was left in such a bad shape. This guy eating through tubes and stuff. So there is a downside to it when you deal with people like that. But like in my area, most of the folks I talk to that want to be cops, they want to be cops in the wealthy area, right? Because those areas, the only time you'll be called for something, somebody left their keys somewhere. Somebody's cat is stuck in the tree. There's an accident, just a little bump or something. Like that's it. But once you go working in those poor areas, low income, and who tends to live in low income? Black people, Spanish folks. Once you get to work in those areas, guess what you're dealing with? You're dealing with a bunch of people that's upset about how their life ended up, that are resorting to drugs, drinking their problems away, doing drugs, cocaine, doing all this stuff, messing with their minds. Then they try the heavy drugs, and now they start acting crazy. And then, you know what I mean? Crime start going through the roof, right? And that's my thing with when people sit there and talk about police brutality and all that racial profiling they're talking about. Nobody mentions that the reason all this shit is happening, or the place that all this shit tends to happen, is like it's the low income areas, right? If something bad happens and it's in the rich area, it's mostly like, oh, a cop thought, oh, because that person is black, they didn't belong there, they was trying to steal and stuff like that. But all that racial like all that other shit that be happening, the stop and frisk shit, where does it happen? All that shit usually happen in the low income areas where everybody broke lives at. That's where all these problems tend to be at, right? Because you put a bunch of people aspiring to be great, and they're stuck in this little place they can't afford. They're barely making money and all that. They're watching on TV all these people living this great life. You know what I mean? Then they start be like, yo, if I start robbing, my life will be better. I'll be able to have these things. I'll just take them since I can't afford them. And then you mix the drug, the liquor, all this shit. You mix all of that, bad judgment, anger issues, impatience, like all that shit is a bad mixture for bad things to happen. And when these bad things start happening, as a cop, you working in an area like that, you're gonna grow impatient too. You're gonna have no tolerance for all this bullshit. You know what I mean? But meanwhile, the cop that's working in an area where there's no crime happening, he's just getting called for bullshit, like taking a cat down and all that. He's gonna have more tolerance for his stuff. You know what I mean? But somebody who's working in these areas is constantly, people are fighting, doing all this shit. You come around to arrest them. They're running. They're making your job harder. Like, that's the thing. Cops are people too. They have feelings. They have emotions, all that shit. So when they come and arrest you and you sit there, you making them run, you making their job harder for them. Best believe, a lot of them, when they catch your ass, they gonna put a little hurting on you. Because you making their job way harder than it should be. You don't know what they're dealing with at home and all that. Like, that's why they tell people you keep your job and your family life separate or whatever. Don't bring your family life into the job, because that's when you start doing all this shit. You're upset. When you're upset, you're not gonna do what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? Your emotion will get the best of you, and you'll do stupid shit. Now these cops, when you make them run after you, they're gonna be like, man, fuck this shit. I ain't got time for this. You know what I mean? Then they'll shoot you in the back. When they catch you, they're gonna fucking punch the shit out of you, and then tell you stop resisting, stop resisting. That's one of the things I'll be watching at these videos, right? They'll be sitting there hitting you with a stick, and then they'll tell you stop resisting. Like, my nigga, anytime you get hit, isn't your first reaction to like grab where you got hit at to make it feel better or some shit? So every time I get hit, I'm gonna sit there grabbing it because it hurts. I'm trying to hold it. But every time I do that, they're looking at it like I'm not putting my hand behind my back, so they keep going. Right? So, the best way to deal with all that shit is, as a whole, everybody, we stop the bullshit. Stop making the job harder for them. By you sitting there saying, I ain't do nothing, it's not gonna do anything for you. Because they hear it all the time. I ain't do nothing. The person gets caught with blood in their hand, like I said, they still sit there and say, I ain't do nothing. So just go with it, because at the end of the day, cops are people too. The same way you'd be upset for people giving you attitude, they get upset too because they're cops. They have families. Like, I go on Instagram, yo, you see some girls, you're like, holy shit, she bad as fuck. And then you read the bio and you're like, oh, she's a cop. Wow. You know what I mean? Like, you see them, they into Jordans. Like, I remember seeing this one picture. It's like, you'd see this girl, she's wearing like booty shorts, big old titties and all that, like sexy as fuck, pretty face. You know what I mean? That's her on vacation. She looked regular person. And then Monday, Tuesday, whatever, she's in a uniform, right? So y'all gotta understand, cops are people too, but you guys act like they're different species. The same way that you claim that cops look at black people like they're a different species. And my thing is always, stop giving them proof for the bullshit. If people sit there and say, oh, black people are nothing but gangsters and thugs, stop sitting there going in rap music bragging about being gangsters and thugs.